Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mice Plus One Plus One. Proudly sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com, Mana traders, as well as Twitch subscribers and Patreon supporters just like yourself. I am Evan Irwin. We get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, MTG Nerd Girl.
Hey guys, welcome back.
Ruben Bressler.
Good afternoon.
And now to introduce our guest, Ruben, take it away.
All right. Well, Sheldon Menery is a retired level 5 Magic judge, a founding member of the Commander Rules Committee, a Pro Tour Magic commentator, writer for many Magic websites over his career, and of course, he is the godfather of Elder Dragon Highlander. Please welcome Sheldon Menery.
Woo. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being here. Yeah.
Welcome.
Now, if you missed our pre-show, subscribers to this channel or patrons get access to our NSFW version early, and with that, we start the show with outside assistance. We've chosen a question from the comments of our last Plus One show, and that person gets $50 worth of anything at CoolStuffInc.com. Nerd Girl, take it away.
All right, so our question from the audience from MTG Pack Foils is, besides Magic the Gathering and trading card games in general, what other hobbies, if any, are you passionate about?
Is this for me?
It's for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I am very passionate about food and wine. My wife and I cook together a lot. We designed this house, or when we built it, to be basically a kitchen with some other rooms around it. And we repurposed one of the front bedrooms in the house into a bar, which contains an 800-bottle wine cellar. And
Wow.
yeah, we eat, drink, we love to entertain.
I love that. Oh, we lost him again. Sheldon?
Too. Wow, he was 100% during the entire pre-show.
Yeah.
Like, not
Sheldon?
even a hiccup, not even a thing. Poop.
What happened?
I'm waiting.
Did I freeze again?
You did.
Yeah.
All right, you're
Yeah.
back. We're back. We're good.
Should I not move?
No,
I don't know.
Nothing to do with it. I don't know what's going on, because like I said in the pre-show, you were 100%. Like, you didn't even hiccup. You didn't even drop any frames. Like, what's going on?
But we got to 100-bottle wine cellar.
800.
800 bottle wine cellar. Now,
100 bottles. That's barely trying.
100 is
nothing.
nothing. That's right. You'd get along real good with my parents. They're both wine collectors. They have a room that is dedicated to their wine. And they also redesigned a kitchen. When you designed your kitchen, this is going to be a super niche question. Were you what brand of oven did you go with? Because I know that there was big consternation with my parents with oven.
We went with a GE double oven that has the big convection feature, and they're deep. They're deep and tall,
Yeah.
so we can get a lot of things in there when we, if we cook for a bunch of people. Just this past weekend, we did a thing. We had about 30 people over, and it was the first time post-pandemic that we had something that large that we cooked for ourselves. We've done a Christmas party where we had it catered, but every year we do a thing called March the 4th Against Cancer, which isn't a fundraiser. It's a celebration of living. So we do it whatever day March the 4th is on. We just do it, whether it's a Wednesday or not, and we'll have 20, 25, 30 people over. I happen to be at SCGCon on March the 4th this year. So we did it on the 11th, and we rebranded it as March the 4th Goes to 11. And it was.
I suspect this will be a struggle.
Excellent people.
All right. Well, we you blinked out there for just a second, but we got your back.
Okay.
So that's good. All right. So we do appreciate MTG Packfuls for being a part of the show, and certainly that was really cool to learn about. Moving on here into what we generally describe as the main phase of the show. And so, Sheldon, for those who aren't familiar with you, what's sort of the elevator explanation of how long you've been in the game and how you got where you are currently?
What's that? Well, I have 110 seconds.
110 seconds.
110 seconds. I was actually at Gen Con in 1993
Really?
and opened a starter and a booster pack from the Wizards booth. Yeah, I knew them as a role playing game company,
Yeah.
and I was big into running games for the RPGA at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I was at that Gen Con.
Mm-hmm.
And like, ooh, what's the fuss? And I'm like, yeah, give it a try. And grabbed the starter booster, walked away from the table, and my ex-wife and I had driven there. That was still in Milwaukee.
Mm.
Had driven from DC because I was at the Pentagon at the time, and uh, she and one of the other two friends were like in the back seat on the drive home, trying to figure out how to play Magic. Um, and I think it was maybe a month after we got back, I finally tried a game, and I was hooked the first game I played. To make a long story relatively short, it definitely was not a format yet. It was a proto idea,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things was even the basic land was singleton,
Mm.
and I knew
Wow.
yeah, in 2002 that was never going to fly.
Right.
Uh, and that was the first thing I changed, and the second thing I changed was the general, as we called it back then,
Mm-hmm.
started shuffled into your deck, which for being important didn't make any sense to me. I'm
Right.
like, nah, why don't we pull that out and put it in exile, and we'll cast it from exile, and then um, then I took it to the I took it when I left Alaska, I took it with me to my new group in Virginia, who are real casual Magic players,
Mm-hmm.
and introduced it to them. And soon it was all they wanted to play, which then gave me the idea that it did have some stamina. And I was looking as a level 5 judge, I was looking for something for the judges at the Pro Tour because judging at the Pro Tour is really stressful. It's more stressful than playing, and um, I I really wanted an activity for them to have post show when they were relaxing, so they didn't have to pay 100% attention to it and could socialize. And like from its roots, um, EDH was social first, mechanical second. And uh, of course, introducing it to the Pro Tour judges was like lighting um, a match to dry tinder. And well, you know, most of 20 years later, here we are.
Most of 20 years. So now, back in the day, of course, the commander cards were almost accidental, if
Mm-hmm.
anything. And it took really Ken Nagel to get in the building to say, every other player, each opponent versus just target
Mm-hmm.
opponent, things like that. And so with these days, you could argue a pretty monumental shift in the thinking of A, towards the casual format, and B, what they designed for the casual format.
Sure.
And so, having gone through, particularly the last 5 years, which have been kind of insane, honestly, how do you feel we're sort of at this point in terms of the balance of, hey, we're here to just have fun versus like we got to sell these casual cards or whatever, you know what I mean?
I think they've actually gotten to a point where they've gotten more appropriate designers
Mm-hmm.
in the space for Commander.
Hmm.
Uh, and I was there in late 2019
Mm-hmm.
to do Strixhaven,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a lot of conversations about the sort of arc of Commander and where we were going with it. And from that point forward, I think they've done a great job of adjusting the power level correctly, instead of looking at it like a Pro Tour player would, looking at design like a casual player, social player would.
Mm-hmm.
And while we've had one or two slip ups in there, I think for the most part the the power level has been hit the right spot from like Strixhaven through AFR and the Midnight Hunt and those all those sets. I think we got to a point where if the Eternal cards didn't exist, this would be a great place for the format to be. Right? If it was just this kind of power level, I think that we wouldn't have, well, we certainly wouldn't have some of the mismatched expectations we have right now when we sit down to games. But it's the right spot for the social format to be.
So I have a question about the development of the cards and how the game Commander itself has changed over the last few years. Let's say the last 10 years. I'm going to start with like a brief aside story. The first time I played Commander was, I think, 2012, and I absolutely hated it. Now, I think it was partly to do with like the group. The turns were taking forever. People were doing a lot of like searching and doing things. How much of that do you think was the change in format, the change in the types of cards people are putting in their deck? Like, because now, years later, it's sort of part of my job to dabble a little bit more in Commander, but I can tell you, I actively love it. I'm enjoying it. Now, is that because the cards have changed, the format has changed, or my friend group has changed?
I'm willing to bet that there are portions of each, but
Yeah.
I think the primary factor is probably the people you're playing with. That
Okay.
you're developing a rhythm with each other that you've adjusted to wherever you are on the scale, and are probably interested in each other's good time.
Yeah, it is weird. I can't exactly pinpoint why I had such a terrible time in 2012 to where I never wanted to play it again. But now I sit down with random people at command fests, like people I've never played with before, people I've never talked to, and I always have a good time. For me, I sort of, when I explain Commander to competitive players, I kind of say it's a little bit more like a board game. You can play a board game and still have fun, even if you lose, and you play, you help your friends learn a new board game as you get through the board game, and you still get to enjoy it. Whereas a lot of Magic players can't see Magic that way in that sort of one-on-one aspect. So I think
Right.
it's partly because I've grown as well, and I'm able to see Magic in a different light.
Yeah, I agree. We said a long time ago that Commander is closer to a game of D&D than it is to an actual game of Magic.
Yeah, 100%. And just like D&D, the play group matters. I've played with people who are great. We just don't mesh in role playing. I've played with people who are great. We just don't mesh in Commander. I have friends that I don't love playing Commander with, and people who I don't consider to be like close friends who are ideal for my type of Commander. And that's totally okay. There's no value judgment there. It's just a really excellent tool for experiencing Magic without necessarily requiring the cutthroat aspect. Right. I would rather my deck do the thing and then I lose than win by accident, kind of.
The perfect game of Commander is where everybody does something epic happens, and somebody eventually wins.
Yeah, it's kind of like board games in that way, where you have to find the group that's playing the type of board game that you like. Do you like to play very sort of heavy risk deep games, or do you like to play Monopoly? If you're only a Monopoly player, then that's fine. You just have to find the fellow Monopoly players.
Right.
Now, I would like to go to your history as a judge. There have not been a lot of level 5 judges.
No.
That is a very difficult mountain to climb.
Well, there aren't anymore, are there? Like, those aren't even a thing.
I mean, historically, there have been fewer than 10, I think.
I think I broke the level.
Yeah. So talk to me about, because I was a soccer referee for a very long time. I was a poker dealer for a very long time. I was even a Magic judge for a little bit there. Talk to me about what it is about judging Magic that has attracted you and kept your attention for so long.
Well, I mean, I retired from Magic judging in 2011, so
perhaps not anymore, but
yeah. So it was always about leadership in a community, right? It was about organization and taking care of people. And I had those skills. I brought those skills into the program because I was already an Air Force NCO at the time, right? I certified as a judge when I was 35. So, I was already well into a career and knew how to organize groups of people and um, and provide direction and inspiration and support to a network of people. So it just kind of grew from there, really. And my attraction then was taking care of an ever larger group of people and going to level 3 and to level 4 and level 5 took me sort of into being able to really do good things for a couple of thousand people.
Yeah, so I'm curious. These days, it is almost meteoric when a card gets banned from the format, and there's a whole lot of hubbub, and there's even hubbub when there are no changes, right? It's just, there's
Sure.
always something all the time about are they going to change it, are they not? So I'm curious, sort of for yourself, there's some sort of check boxes that have to be checked for a card to be too much. What
Right.
what do you personally feel like is too much, and when do things cross that threshold for you?
Well, so Magic players are tied up in what a card does. But what a card does doesn't get it banned. Doesn't get it banned in Commander. What a card does to the format will get it banned. So it doesn't matter specifically how the thing has the negative impact. It's the fact that it's having the negative impact. It's the fact um, that you have to prepare to play against Prophet of Krufix in every game you sit down in, or you have to be aware that Hull Breacher exists and plan for cards to play against it. And anything that the Commander, for us, the mechanical aspect of Commander is about creativity, and cards that stifle creativity by creating environments where you have to play them or play against them have an easy path off to the ban list. So yeah, being ubiquitous and negative is what gets it banned. Ubiquity isn't a problem. I'm Solemn Simulacrum is never going to wreck the format,
Right.
right? And I'm doing a sort of a getting my cards right in the Architect database right now, and of 70, I have 81 decks, 7 are precons, so there's 74 decks. I'm playing Solemn in 42 of them.
Sure.
And it's not doing anything bad.
Yeah.
Or there are cards that aren't getting played in the broader part of the format that might do something bad, but they're not getting played. We can talk about Fastest Oracle maybe only getting played in 1% of Commander games. So does it on a objective basis do something bad? Probably. If it stifles diversity at that end of the format, yeah, that's bad. But that end is such a tiny piece of the format, maybe growing, but then it doesn't warrant taking action. Or academic bans. We do practical bans, not academic ones. With the exception of I'd say there are 2 academic bans. One of them being Lutri, and the other being trade secrets. Like, we just didn't want that kind of collusion to be able to happen in Commander games, because we'd see it happen even with people that didn't know each other. Like, hey, you want to do this? And then ha ha ha, the 2 of us drew our decks.
Right.
Right, lol.
So you mentioned like the percentage of decks like Solemn Simulacrum is in. I saw a post from EDH Rec saying that 84% of all decks on their site had Soul Ring in it.
Mhm.
So how do you feel about cards like that that have like, you know, a ton? And if you can't speak to any of this, or it's, you know, behind the curtain of what you guys are discussing, please ignore me. But like I'm still pretty new to Commander. I've only built like 3 decks myself. So
Right.
I don't know how much of that is, you know, something that you guys like to see or would like to lean away from.
Well, I mean, we'd like to see games have the opportunity to develop. Like we have a while we want Commander to be a broad tent and everybody feel like they're welcome regardless of their play style, we have a we have a sort of target demographic play style that we think makes the best games for the broadest audience. And we like to see games that get into the 8 to 10 turn range or longer. And um, the faster the mana, the less likely that's going to happen. Sol Ring gets an exception because I think to some extent Sol Ring might be one of the cards that made us. So if we ever got the hair and said, you know what, we're just banning fast mana, Mana Crypt and Mana Vault and a couple of them, the Moxes and things like that, they'd probably go, and we would just let Sol Ring stay for its long contributions to the history of our pastime.
Nature's workshop of the format.
I love that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the brainstorm. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is a card when in the beginning people are like, I can play Sol Ring?
Yeah.
And I mean you love that discovery, and that really is maybe not so much these days, but especially like when Nerd Girl, you said you were getting involved in 2011 or so. I can play ? Was really the discovery point for a lot of people. That joy of, I love this card in standard, and I can't play it anymore. But you know what? Now I can jam Sovereigns of Lost Alara into my commander deck, and go fetch up that El Jazi conscription, and
Yeah.
everybody will be happy.
In 2009, when I played my first games of Commander at the time, and this was, I learned the two things. One was that brilliant moment of, oh my God, I can play Sol Ring. And then there was that second moment of, oh my God, it's in my opening hand. And then that last revelation of when you play that turn one, you draw a big giant target on yourself. And as someone who's only played 1v1, and didn't really understand the political, effects of what I was doing, I really quickly learned that, oh, yes, you play with Sol Ring, and yes, you also pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will often have Sol Ring in my opening hand and purposefully not play it till turn 3, just so that people don't come after me.
Yeah.
I don't want that residual hate,
Well, even turn 2, you're like, oh, look what I top deck.
Yeah,
It is interesting, the idea that you kind of don't play those things, or it's something you have to actively think about, because I feel like that's one of the things, that's like the main thing I hear from competitive players who actively don't like Commander for that reason. They don't like the political side of it. And I'm like, we're good friends. I know you love Risk. So I know you know how to play this game. Why do you hate it so much in Magic? And I just can't get the disconnect there. But I love that aspect of the game, and I'm a huge Risk fan. So to me, it's a perfect fitting game.
Yeah. I mean, I think that people might go to the political a little too early in games. There's definitely a lot. I said that where was I last weekend? In Charlotte. There's just too much whining in Commander games. Right? Oh, you attack me, and just wait. Hold your political cards until you actually need to play them. And, that on turn 3, somebody wants to make a deal with me. I'm like, there's no deal to be had here. We're just getting started now.
Right, exactly.
Now, when it matters, make the deal. Be honest. Don't break the deal. I've never broken a deal. I've had people break deals with me, and they will pay for it.
Yeah. You can only sell your reputation one time.
Yep. They will continue to pay for it for time immemorial.
That's right.
We'll never forget. That's right.
That's right. So, do you remember what your first Elder Dragon Highlander deck was?
Yeah, it was Arcades Sabbath.
Nice.
Which I then, when I got to Virginia, and I was playing with these new friends with like really casual collections. I wanted to play Bant. I wanted to still play Bant, so I could have my Palinchron shenanigans. And I found the worst Bant commander I could at the time.
Oh, please tell me.
Feldergriff.
Yeah, okay. Perfect. That's the ideal.
And guess who my pre-DH commander is now? It's
I hope it's Feldergriff. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, when Prof pinged me and said, hey, I want you to come play on Shuffle Up and Play, and what do you want to play? I'm like, oh wait. He's like, who do you want to play with? And I said, I want to play with Brian David Marshall and anybody new and up and coming that maybe we can give a little shout out to. And Prof said, how about Cedric from Mana Squad? And I'm like, Stead is perfect because those guys have such a good time when they play all the time. Like, I love watching their stream because they're just enjoying themselves, right? And maybe a game of Commander actually breaks out underneath. And we decided, I don't remember where the decision was to play pre-DH. And probably Brian suggested it. And I like, who's going to be the best? What can I come up with? And then at some point I'm like, what am I thinking about? Why am I not going down the nostalgia angle here?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I was like, I grabbed the Feldergriff. I mean, I have a Feldergriff deck that I have had continuously since then, but it's changed over the years. I redesigned it probably 10 years ago to be Purple Hippos and Marrow Sorcerers. But I was like, I'm building the nostalgic Feldergriff deck, and it still has those Palinchron shenanigans in it.
There still seems to be this pull for the pre-modern, the pre-DH. Can we just go back to when it was
Old school.
Pure and it was old and people just found cards because they found them? And I also think one of the other sort of extremes is that, back in the day, we had a release once a year. Oh, there was a Commander Decks. Oh, Commander Decks. And then we got more frequent, and now we get Commander Decks with everything, and Lord of the Rings is getting a whole set, and then Warhammer got a whole set, and everybody's getting a set, and there's just sets for days, and there's Commander Decks for days. And, do you try to pay attention to all that? Is it too much for you?
Well, it can be both, can it? Yes, I pay attention to it. As a content creator, it's great because I don't have to think, right? There's 52 articles a year.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the decision on 40 of them is decided before I ever actually have to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because for every set I'm certainly going to do like a first look, when the first previews come out.
Mm-hmm.
Then once the set comes out, a full set review.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to do a piece where I update all my suite of 80 decks with the cards from the new set. And then I'm going to do a piece on what I'm building, what new thing I'm building out of the new set. So, we've got canned work coming in, so it's great. But as a fan, it means that I have no time to enjoy, to luxuriate in those cards.
Mm-hmm.
There's Streets of New Capenna cards that I want to play, and uh, like, if I look at an undercover operative, it seems new to me because I haven't had a chance to really dig into it. So it's a two-edged sword to be sure, and to to think that you can have an encyclopedic knowledge of every magic card that comes out now, it's not going to happen like it did back then.
Yeah.
I gave up. I gave up
Yeah,
on trying
me
to
too.
memorize every magic card.
Yeah. No, there was, fellow rules committee member Toby Elliott used to be a collect everything person, and it was the mid, it was probably 2014 or 15. He's like, I give up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like, I'll get my one, I'll get a box, a
Mhm.
sealed box of everything, and put it in the closet with all the other sealed boxes of everything. But trying to collect one of is
Yeah.
just, the set. I'm sure the set that had 16 different Jaces in it um, broke his spirit.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all
that'll
the
do it.
Teferis in that one. There was one, and I mean these days they have
There's
over.
Teferi, yeah, it was 16 different Teferis.
Yeah,
Sorry.
they have over 1,000 new cards from the Lord of the Rings set. Over 1,000.
Hmm.
All the treatments, all the
Yep.
changes. That is a whole heck of
Yeah.
a lot.
Well, one of the things that I love about the fact that they're doing all these treatments is it's driven the price of the foils down.
Oh yeah.
It used to be that like the foil was twice the price or more of the
Hmm.
not foil, and now sometimes the foil is cheaper than the regular one because there are so many different foils that demand is that drives down the demand.
Oh,
I'm
So I
also
could,
super. I'm also convinced that the quality of the foils are just way worse and most of the time not playable.
yeah, well,
That's
I
neither
think
here nor there. Like,
I think they've gotten better the last few sets. Like I pulled some of the lands from Brothers War,
mhm,
and they're pretty straight.
mhm,
Like I put all. Now I'm getting into the thing where all my lands have to match,
Mhm.
all my basic lands have to match.
mhm.
Um, yeah, back in the day, you just played with whichever foils you could find,
Mm-hmm.
um, and some of my decks reflect that. I've got Odyssey and Invasion foil basics in some of them.
Last little thing for me before I gotta get out of Evan's hair or lack thereof. Just a quick burn, real quick. Just
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
yeah, you're welcome. No problem. Anytime.
Mhm.
So a couple years ago, at this point, when an unset was released, you announced that all of the uncards were legal for like a month.
Hmm.
We're coming up on April 1st. Has there, that's April Fool's Day. Has there been any talk about making the sets that aren't legal for like half a minute?
Not a word.
All right, fine. I accept your terms.
All right, so the last part of our show here is we go into the fundamental turn. This is a series of off the top of your head quick questions that we ask each guest, and just tell us whatever comes off the first thing on your mind, and let's give it a go here. What is your favorite thing about Magic?
Jennifer Lawrence,
Old border or new border?
Old Border,
Favorite set?
Invasion,
Favorite mechanic?
Trample.
Favorite deck?
You did this to yourself.
Card you wish you never got rid of?
Alpha Black Lotus.
Best advice you repeat?
Play like you want to be invited back again.
What do people get wrong about you?
That I'm unapproachable.
What do people get right about you?
That I'm approachable.
What makes you happy?
Everything.
Failure means,
Failure is not an option.
and success means.
Doing what I do every day.
Very, very nice. All right, and that ends the fundamental turn in another episode of Magic Mike's Plus One Plus One. And finally, Sheldon, where can people find you online?
You can find me by my name on the social medias, Facebook and Twitter. You can find me running around the Commander RC Discord. If you go to mtgcommander.net, on the main page, there's a link to the Discord there. Come join us, hang around. We spend a lot of time actually being available to players on the Discord server. You can find me streaming on twitch.tv/CommanderRC every Thursday night with a group of reprobates, some of which are in this very room right now.
That's right.
And of course, you can find me every Thursday writing about the best format in the history of Magic on StarCityGames.com.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Nerd Girl.
Thanks for having me, guys. See you next week.
Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you so much. This opportunity to talk to you was lovely. And we all love you. Thank you for making Magic's most popular format.
Let's do it again sometime.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sheldon. We appreciate it. We're going to move here to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, Mana Traders, my co-host, MTG Nerd Girl and Ruben Bressler, you guys for watching or listening, our special guest, Sheldon Menery, and hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, twitch.tv at Magic Mics, on Twitter at Magic Mics Cast, our Magic Mics subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Or join us here next time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics +1+1. Good night, everybody.